Hi, I'm Sue Bergamo, and welcome to Short Takes, a podcast focused on shining a spotlight onto a brilliant C-level executive. For today's session, we have Demi Ben-Ari, CTO and co-founder of Panorays. He's here to discuss TPSM and tell us how his company is solving an industry gap. So, Demi, you and I have known each other for a long time, and it was so great to meet you when I was in Tel Aviv this year. I hear you have a fun fact for me.
Yes, indeed. First of all, pleasure to be here, Sue. It's a pleasure to speak with you each time, but I think this fresh thing is a really good start for a new interesting subject. And I would say a fun fact that I actually speak four totally different types of languages. I speak English, Hebrew, Georgian, and Russian. That's mostly because I was born in Georgia back in the days, not the state, the country, and all dialects are pretty different. So because of that, I would imagine that I don't have a specific accent in any language, but any native person would identify that I'm not a native speaker of any language.
Now, it's interesting because I pick up on your Israeli accent every time that we speak. So I would have never guessed.
I would assume.
I'm thrilled to have you here tonight. And I just wanted to talk with you a little bit about the industry that you're in and the problem that your company is trying to solve. And if you can just tell us in your own words, what Panorays is trying to do, that would be terrific.
Yes, sure, sure. I think the term third-party security risk management is pretty bombastic, and usually when people speak about that, they tackle the problem of actually like engagement with vendors, okay? And most of the times they actually translate that to VRM, vendor risk management, but it's much broader than that, okay? The biggest problem I think in the industry of security, but specifically in our realm, is communication. People communicate with each other in various like manners. Okay, security questionnaires is one of them, and the problem itself is actually like forming trust relationships between these third-party entities. And why am I mentioning the term third party and not specifically mentioning only vendors? Because this is only one discrete use case. Third-party risk management is much broader. Okay, and usually in the past it has to be it used to be a niche in the world of GRC, and it actually expanded because the usage itself of third-party services today is evident to any company, any size, okay? From the smallest startup companies to the largest corporates in the world, they engage with so many third parties, and it's not already like it had been in the past. I'm protecting my own data center, and that's it, right? So you're using SaaS services, you're using service providers for everything. And because of that, there are a lot of use cases of third party, okay, that you need to tackle as a security person, and even the board of directors. I'm not meaning only the technical people. And due to that fact, the communication between all of these entities is super complex. Okay, eventually they need to form some kind of like language to understand and see the business impact of any third party relationship. And that's where we come in. We created actually technology that automates that whole process, and having all of the pieces of the puzzle, okay, the components of the process in a single platform, which usually happens in multiple GRC platforms, sending questionnaires via emails, a lot of maybe technology vendors that also provide external attack surface assessment. We've combined all of these capabilities in one platform, a SaaS platform, of course, that does not need any installation in any party, and covering this whole communication aspect between all of the companies involved in the network, the ecosystem of Panorays. So basically, if I want to like say the vision of the company would be to be on every business transaction between two companies in the world today and form the cyber trust between all of these entities, whatever that means, meaning like communication from both ends, both the auditor, the regular customer of Panorays that will be engaging with the third parties, and also helping the third parties, the vendors themselves, to perform all of these like audit processes that come into their premise.
It's really great to hear you talk about, how the platform is, solving some of these real world problems in the industry today. And as a practitioner, we all know how awful it is to create these questionnaires. And, depending on the size of your
Indeed.
company, they come fast and furious. They're getting bigger and bigger. There's portals. So are you seeing any other gaps in the industry that you're trying to solve? And second question is, you're not just GRC, you're taking it to the next degree. So can you talk a little
Mm-hmm.
bit how you're getting into, supply chain and overall
Yep.
cybersecurity posture?
Yep. Thank you. So I know you've done this like so many times in the past, meaning your whole history, even like as a security person, as a technology person. So you've done audit processes and you've gone through those. Okay. So you know how much time it actually takes, effort of all of the people involved in the company to actually answer these questions. But all of that actually boils down to security controls implemented or not. Okay. And eventually, when a company actually takes upon itself to implement a security program, and especially the third party risk management program, it has to meet certain thresholds, I would say. Okay. So the collection of information, this is the problem that we're solving among all of the entities that are involved around the security controls. We're doing that automatically. We've created, as an example, an engine that actually does that with no human intervention. Okay, so the engine is external, like I mentioned. And again, it has its own limitations because we don't install any agents and we don't go too deep. But again, we're holding the relationship. I think this is the most important process. And you, when you're as an auditor, okay, let me put the head of the CISO right now on top of your head. And right now, when you want to do an audit process on a third party that you're interacting with, that can be your vendor, your business partner, your subsidiary company, okay? We have a lot of customers that also do that third party use case, or maybe even product integrations. When you have a lot of companies that are involved in the ecosystem of your own product, they are third parties. Okay. Like even lately, okay, the Discord breach, Discord.io was a fourth party, right, of a lot of companies because they're a third party of Discord. It's being so complex right now, like you mentioned, the supply chain aspect of it. So I think the biggest challenge or the first question that you need to answer as a practitioner, who are my third parties? Okay, who are my third party interactions? So I think the biggest challenge, the first biggest challenge that we're solving to our customer base is having an actual inventory of all of the third party interactions that a company has. Then helping classify where are the critical ones and how we need to address each party. And afterwards, of course, do some kind of process. Okay, we as security people are not gatekeepers anymore. Okay, we're not the bad people of the organization. We have to be the business enablers. The board of directors of the company defines some kind of policy or goal or business goal, and we need to support that goal. No matter if all of the interactions are really risky, okay, we need to lower the risk. We're in the risk management process and not like vulnerability mitigation, which used to be, like 20, 30 years back when you look on security. And then we are right now in the middle of all of these crossroads, okay? Because we need to be business enablers and create something in a secure manner and not say, okay, we're not using this service, that's all, right? So eventually, by creating this type of workflow that helps to communicate between all of the entities and create actual remediation actions, okay, or maybe even remediation processes between all of these interactions, this again what makes us business enablers and not the bad guys. Okay. And eventually, by creating the platform that actually facilitates this whole, like peachy process that I've described right now, and we all know that it's not pleasant for anybody, we are able to actually address all of the third party interactions because any company today, okay, from the smallest one, has hundreds of interactions. We have customers that have hundreds of thousands of interactions. Without proper automation, nothing that I've described right now is possible. That's it.
It is amazing to me how hard it really is to create an inventory, not just of assets, but of interactions. And I'm glad to hear you talk about the fact that the product can actually go out and automatically find where those interactions lie. So if you had
And
to
recommend even sometimes about the importance and criticality because we have a lot of knowledge about all of the interactions globally, okay, and it actually varies between territories, okay. The way that users and I would say practitioners in the US interact with the platform and with their vendors is different than South Africa, different in various places in Europe. Totally different, by the way, in APAC, in the area of Asia and other types of countries like that. And this is begin because it's a people problem. It's not a technology problem. The technology should support solving the people problem.
I agree with you. So if you had to put it into words, would some of these multi-language supports for all these different geographic locations, would you call that a differentiator or would you head down a whole different path for me?
I think it's a basic capability to be able to actually solve the problem. This is why we actually localized the platform a long time ago, okay, to specific localities. As an example, in Japan, okay, customers in Japan feel much more comfortable with Japanese. That's not a surprise, right? And especially all of their aggregate supply chain, which manufacturing companies sometimes it's like I don't know, screw companies or something like that, and they're local and they're not too friendly to English. So, especially doing this audit process in an efficient manner, think of it not translating each time, really makes it different. It's a really game changer for our customers also in the matter of time and shortening the cycle of actually engaging with a third party and starting to work with them from months to days. This is super substantial.
It's substantial and it becomes more productive and efficient for the compliance team, which is absolutely needed because,
Mm-hmm.
the more interactions you have with third parties, the more integrations that you have, it just gets more
Yep.
complex as time goes on. So
Mm-hmm.
interesting, very interesting. Um, I want to ask you, because we're almost out of time in our short take, but if you had to tell the audience a couple things to take away from this conversation, what would those items be?
So I will kind of try to address that threefold. Okay. So in general, we mentioned the whole aspect of inventory. Even like having a basic ability to actually map out all of the third-party interactions, I think is the fundamental part of actually forming any third-party risk management program. Okay. Even especially, of course, in cyber because it's much more complicated, but broader speaking about the risk management, this is a must. Okay. And keeping track on that because again, we're trying to be the enablers to the business. If we're not a part of the process of onboarding or actually like tracking the third party interactions, we will lose that immediately. Okay. You will have a single source of truth for a second and that's it. It's gone. The second, again, like we've mentioned, hundreds, and when you're looking on the thousands, etc., and more third party interactions without proper automation and classification and actually focusing, you won't be able to actually address anything. Okay. Again, because think of it that security teams are not too large, even in really large companies. And especially when you have three people that are in charge of, security as a whole, and third party risk management would be a portion of their job. Without proper automation, you won't be able to actually do anything. And again, incorporating a lot of like new innovative technologies like AI is also crucial to the process. Okay. I think that any company, any security company, or even like any operational company today that will not adopt AI in a secure manner, which we can speak hours about that, how do you actually achieve that? Because this is a really vast portion of what customers are achieving today with managing the risk around third party AI with process that is supported by technology,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And eventually makes our lives easier as practitioners. And then when we decide what fits our company, our own risk appetite, then it will be the most, I would say, appropriate process for us and not the best practice of the industry, which is too general, in my opinion. And again, you had the challenge of being a practitioner and trying to speak to the board and them kind of like trying to define to you what are the crown jewels and what do you need to actually protect, right? And this conversation should be open around connecting technology, people, and real problems, and not installing shiny, a real business problem. And then you will be satisfied from the result, not because of shiny tools.
Well, we both know that having a good cybersecurity program involves three things: people, process, and technology. It's not always the
Of
shiny
course.
new toy. If people want to get a hold of you and learn more about your product, how can they reach you?
You can like go to the website panorays.com. You can reach out on LinkedIn, and I'm pretty communicative. I think just say we're friends of Sue, and we want to hear more. That's it. You don't need more than that.
That's terrific. Thank you for your time today, and I look
Appreciate it
forward
very
to
much,
our
Sue.
next conversation.
Love.